The law is important for us in the sense that US is the only country that has a law on Tibet since 2002 that has been amended to US-Tibet Subordinate Policy Act of 2020.
European Union che, Australia that something I do want to name that I'm to jump to push the rest of it.
What you did that can be Lachetta which I had. Indeed, I Timjala Challenge Samalola, and it Naragito, and it about the Tuchi Chena share.
The nature of Puda, Jamila Tikanar, Zambuli, Gitchi, Tinja, Chazaji, Gogaji, but the nature of Tim now on the Kutabadilla, Suzu, Pebati, Chanin, Tabat, Katinche, Flabardo, and Jimja, the Tol, Ari, Trezo, Moni, Dana ship with the Jajo Soba, Ari Nalo, Bebe Soba, and Jignaras, Jajo Soba, Same, will let you and Jen, Tamada, the Legit Tomadilla, in Taban to chase you.
You got a challenge on me. And when Yamungi challenge on it, only on it, Tari, Kobdil, Nation and Samari, maybe some other, and they channel Gabo, Webaji, Gabochi, Chadu, and Samari in Tampani, and Tushinashi.
Addition, some addition that Tushinai, then I see any Maupale, Mutuni, Capina, Shui.
It does have a session to the basically the Pentacoshushis to share. Thank you, USA.
You have the Chongores, the supporting of the Pentacos, what the Bemis to Genas, and a Maupa Video Tara, yes.
It's very rare for Tibetans to celebrate. There were times when Tibetans celebrated when His Holiness was honored with the Nobel Peace Prize, with the US Congressional Gold Medal and recognition from many institutions and organizations, or otherwise the Tibet issue becomes known nationally because of Tibetan suffering inside Tibet. This is for the first time, this is a very momentous day for the Tibetans that we celebrate because of a government's decision to pass a legislation like the Resolve Tibet Act, which challenges every aspect of China's claim on Tibet. And I want to thank Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, because this germinated from her office when she was the speaker in 2022 April, when Richard Gere, as the president of ICT, and myself as Sikong, and the team from the Office of Tibet and International Campaign for Tibet met in your office along with Congressman Jim McGovern, and we strategized on three basic issues. One was to organize the World Parliamentarians Convention on Tibet in Washington, D.C. Since the last one, it was one in 1997, and this was organized in June 2022. And around the same time, the testimony on the historical status of Tibet by Tenzin Namgyel Dentong, Ellen Borg, and the Chinese historian Professor Lau and Michael, four of them testified in front of the Congress. Based on that testimony, this Resolve Tibet Act was co-sponsored by Congressman Jim McGovern and Chairman McCall in the House, and Senator Todd Young and Jeff Merkley in the Senate, with a lot of support from Senator Cardin as chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. We are very, very thankful. As Speaker Pelosi, when she visited Dharamsala, she mentioned that it's also due to the Tibetan people that this got passed. So I want to thank all the Tibetans in America, the Tibet support groups, the Tibetan associations, the Tibet advocates, particularly the younger generations of Tibetans who have been at the Hill this year in March. And I know there have been a lot of inputs and support also from the congressional staffers, some of whom are present here, like Todd and Kim, who have been also architects of this bill, supporting Jim McGovern's office. So thank you very much again, Speaker Pelosi, for your presence here, Congressman Jim McGovern for your presence here, and I know some of other members will also be joining us now, but I know also for a fact that Speaker Pelosi have to leave early, so may I invite you to say a few words at this.
Well, I do have to leave, but let me just thank all of you, because his leadership going around the country, going up to other, just spreading the word, again, the mobilization, the public opinion about it, the awareness that the Tibetan people in exile and in Tibet, awareness of that is because of you. So I thank you. I had the privilege of being there when he got the National Endowment for Democracy Award and to receive one from him. But it really is a tribute to you. And to see the awareness of this, when we went on the trip, to then see the signature follow, it gives people hope. And now our leader of the trip, Mike McCall, is here. And again, the fact that this is bipartisan, and his leadership, and Meeks and McGovern and the rest, and I see Joe Wilson. I will leave it in their hands because the security is telling me I have to be in the car right now. Let me just see.
Thank you so much.
Give our love to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you. Now, I just want to take credit for something. When I became speaker in 2007, we voted to have the gold medal, Congressional Gold Medal, given to His Holiness. And what was very special about it was that the Chinese were not happy, but they were extra unhappy because President Bush and Laura Bush both joined us for that medal ceremony. So again, bipartisan, White House, House, Senate, Democrats and Republicans.
Thank you.
Right there, President. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Chairman McCall, we just showed a small video of Tibetans celebrating from Dharamsala.
Yeah. We'll take one
Yeah,
photo.
we'll take one video.
Yes,
Yeah, please. This is the copy. Yeah.
But we did. Well, our trip paid off.
They couldn't.
That was a great day. That was a great day.
Look how good Mike McCall was.
Oh my God. Look at Nancy. You know, shiny her. Bye, Nancy.
Chairman McCall, thank you very much for your presence here. I'm sure you will get time to see the Tibetans celebrating from Dharamsala to all over the world, and I'm also informed that the Tibetans inside Tibet are very much aware of this legislation, but the Chinese government has put in they're putting a lot of restrictions inside Tibet not to celebrate it, but there are a lot of signs of Tibetans celebrating in different ways. Thank you very much for your leadership, Chairman McCall, for your leading the congressional delegation to Dharamsala. We also have a copy of this picture photographed by His Holiness for all the members who have been to Dharamsala. So may I request you?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's so good to see you again. Thank you. Thank you so much. And when you travel with Nancy Pelosi, she said I was the leader. She's always the leader. But it was a real honor to be with these members. And the former Speaker of the House, she's known the Dalai Lama for so long that when we walked in, he said, old friend. And I thought that was very valuable to have her on the trip. And of course, Joe, my dear friend, and Jim really deserves all the credit. He was the author of the bill. He's worked how long on this?
A long time.
I mean, Jim has worked for years on this, and he talked to me on the floor, and I said, you know, of course we need to mark this up and get it passed by Congress, and we did, and it was perfect timing. We had it passed and on the President's desk by the time we were in Dharamsala, and I have to say it was one of the most, I've been in Congress, not as long as you, Jim, or Joe, but I've been in for 20 years now, and I've been on a lot of trips. But I think meeting the Dalai Lama was the most profound experience and most personally touching from a spiritual standpoint. I mean, here was a man whose monks were slaughtered by the Chinese Communist Party, who had a 4,000-kilometer trek, you know, from Tibet to northern India, and yet he holds no ill will. That's very powerful. I don't know of any, I wasn't sure if that's even a human capability to not harness any ill will or negative energy, but he believes, I think rightly so, that, you know, harnessing negative energy damages the soul. And he's very into science. He said, you know, if you look at the Tibetan monk's brain and their brain scan, and you look at somebody like Joe's brain, subjected to trauma, Joe's brain is really going to react. The Tibetan monk stays fairly calm. And that's a real secret that I think take away from me in terms of life and how to live your life without getting so stressed out about everything. But it's a very important time. He's probably the most important Dalai Lama we've had in the history of Tibet because of what happened with the Chinese Communist Party. And they threatened us on the trip. They threatened us before we got there. They threatened us when we were there. And they threatened us after. And interesting, Chairman Xi went to Tibet the day after we met with the Dalai Lama to reassure them that everything is okay when it's not. And we had 2 survivors from Tibet who were put in a Chinese prison who had to walk on barbed wire and tortured. And look, the bill is very simple. It says that Tibet was never part of China. They lie about the history that Tibet was at one point in time part of China. And so Jim, I think, did a great job saying, no, that historically is inaccurate. And secondly, and really important, is the right to self-determination. And we pulled in articles under the UN Charter that say all peoples have a right to self-determination, including the people of Tibet. And I want to give these members an opportunity to speak as well, but the reception that we received was overwhelming. I have to say, Madam, I think I speak for all the members how like blown away we were with the warm reception of the Tibetan people lining up the streets. I had no idea we were going to walk into this, and it was so warm, and it was heartwarming. It's an experience I'll never forget. And then those little girls dancing. I mean, my God. I have a video I put together I need to share with you, maybe share with His Holiness. And I hope that he's doing well, recovering. The last thing, and I'll yield to my colleagues, is, secession is an issue. And we said, he was very clear. I will not be reborn in China. I will be reborn in freedom. And that was a great message. It's a great message for the Tibetan people. And I think China thought this was over. They thought this chapter was over, and Tibet was over, and it's theirs. But we're not going to let that happen. The bill is a very stark reminder to China that we have not forgotten about the Tibetan people, that they have a right to self-determination, and we will be with the people of Tibet over the Chinese Communist Party. So thank you very much. And I'll let you
Thank you, Chairman McCall. Now, the architect of the bill and co-sponsor, Sid McCall.
Well, first of all, let me thank the Sikh-Yun for his leadership. I want to echo what Speaker Emeritus Pelosi said. I mean, he has been incredible, an incredible voice of clarity, of moral clarity, not just within the Tibetan community, but all around the world. And to build on what Chairman McCall said, the significance of this bill, the significance of our trip to meet with His Holiness in the Tibetan community is that it signals that we are not going away, that this issue is a major issue for many of us who care about human rights in Congress. And we are not going to stop until things change for the better, for everybody in the Tibetan community all over the world. It is important that we not let China rewrite history. Tibet was not always part of China since ancient times. That's a lie. That's not very Dalai Lama-like. But the bottom line is, it is important not to let people rewrite history in a way that is false. And I'm, and we had a great bipartisan delegation. But if you look at those of us standing here, we represent, some of us here represent polar opposites politically. There's an old saying, you don't have to agree on everything to agree on something, right? The something we agree on is support for the Tibetan people and the Tibetan cause. We are not going away. We're going to continue to work with this community, which has enriched our lives so greatly. I've learned so much from many of the people in this room, from the Tibetan community in Massachusetts and all across the country. I wish I would adhere to more of the lessons that have been provided to me. But in any event, it is an enormous privilege for us to be with you again. I want to thank Chairman McCall and my friend Joe Wilson and the Speaker Emeritus Pelosi, everybody who's been part of this effort. And to this community, always know that you will always have a special place in our hearts. We genuinely love you, and we will have your back, and we will be wind at your back for as long as it takes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Now we have Congressman Joe Wilson, who among 392 members supported the bill in the House on the floor, and also the reconciliation with the Senate language. Thank you, Joe, and also all the congressional staffers who have been behind, working with all the leaders. Thank you very much, Joe, again, for coming here.
Thank you very much, and indeed, ladies and gentlemen and friends of Free Tibet, it's an honor to be here with my colleagues, Congressman McGovern, who began this effort, but the person who really made it possible, Chairman Mike McCall, chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and to work, of course, with the former Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, and it's bipartisan, as you can well see. My appreciation of the people of Tibet is something I was born with. My dad served in the Flying Tigers in World War II. He served in India. He told me how hardworking the people of India are. And of course, in America, we've seen it. The 4 million Indian Americans now have the highest per capita income of any immigrant group in the United States, twice that of the average American. And so we know the people of Indian heritage, your next door neighbor. And then my dad served in Kunming, Chengdu, and Xi'an, China. He developed a great affection for the people of China, not the Chinese Communist Party. And so, I differentiate between the Chinese Communist Party and the people of China. And so we recognize the independence of Tibet. And then I want to make an analogy. You need to be aware that the United States never recognized the Soviet occupation, the communist occupation of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. In 1940, the Red Army occupied those three countries. The United States never recognized those as Soviet republics. We recognize those as independent countries. And people say, well, they'll never get independence. Oh, yes, they do. Now, those three countries, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, are members of the European Union. They're members of NATO. And so the people of Tibet should have hope that something that is perceived as not possible is possible and will be done. God bless Tibet. God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Joe. We have a very long-standing friend, Chris Smith, who's not being, he's personally not able to come here, but his staffer is here to send a message from Chris Smith. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. On behalf of Congressman Chris Smith, I'm Piero Tozzi, the staff director of the Congressional Executive Commission on China. I want to start off on his behalf, but also on my behalf, to thank Tencho and all the friends at ICT and Sipyong, who was an exceptional witness at the very first hearing this Congress that the Congressional Executive Commission on China held. That was on combating cultural erasure, forced assimilation, and transnational oppression against the Tibetan people by the Chinese Communist Party. And we see here also there's Congressman Jim McGovern, the ranking member of the Congressional Executive Commission on China on the House side, and also Chairman Michael McCall. Both of them, their leadership on the Resolve Tibet Act has been phenomenal. Without them, we would not have this bill, which Chris Smith did co-sponsor. And it follows other Tibet-focused legislative initiatives, namely the Reciprocal Access to Tibet Act and the Tibet Policy and Support Act. And I do note that the Reciprocal Access to Tibet Act is up for reauthorization. We do have a bill both on the House side and the Senate side to reauthorize that and a number of other important pieces of legislation. And all these bills are aimed at helping to lay the groundwork for progress in peacefully resolving Tibet's status and defending the internationally recognized rights of all Tibetans. And this includes the right to free expression, to religious belief and practice, cultural expression and identity, and self-determination. Now, we know that the Chinese government previously carried out discussions on Tibet's status with representatives of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, but cut off those talks in 2010. Now, if our Chinese counterparts are sincere, and that is a big if, then it is high time for such talks to resume, such dialogue. And that's why the Resolve Tibet Act focuses in part on creating conditions for a negotiated agreement on Tibet. And to this end, the law also empowers the U.S. government to push back directly against PRC, CCP disinformation about Tibet. And we've all heard some of those standard refrains. Tibet has been part of China since ancient times. The Communist Party, quote unquote, liberated Tibet, alongside new formulations. And indeed, the CCP and PRC officials are even going to try to eliminate the name of Tibet. We're calling it Xizang, the Mandarin language name of Tibet, which is something I think we need to push back. And just in closing, I think we can quote the language of the law itself, which says that we affirm that the Tibetan people are a people with a distinct religious, cultural, linguistic, and historical entity. And with that, I would like to thank you again on behalf of Chairman Smith, and also if you could extend his and my good wishes to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you.
while acknowledging the role played by the Office of Tibet Representative Namgye Shirula and also the President of ICT. Of course, Richard Gere has been there all the time, meeting with Chairman McCall and others at the Hill, lobbying for this bill. May I invite Tejula to honor the staffers who have been behind this bill.
Thank you, Sigong. Thank you to everyone joining us here. And a large portion of the work is also carried by all the congressional staffers who have helped us on this. So I would like to request, we have Todd Stein. Todd, you could please, like to offer you a kata showing our thanks. Kim, I see you over there. Kim Stanton. Congressman McGovern, formerly of Congressman McGovern and now with Senator Murphy. Piero also, may I invite you for kata? Do we have Ali Schwartz? Oh, I see Leslie. Leslie, please. Leslie, thank you for all your assistance over the hotel trip in Dharamsala. Thank you so much.
Amazing. What's not like that?
Everything. Thank you. Crystal might have left already. Do we have Michael McCock? Yes, Michael, thank you. Do we have Shine Lee? Shine Lee. Dharamjit Singh with Mr. Meeks? Mr. Meeks may not have made it here yet. Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I want to inform you that we have Tibet community from the nearby communities of Charlottesville, Pennsylvania, to organize here, and the Kata leadership here of Maryland, Washington DC, and Virginia community. So thank you all very much for your presence. Yeah. Shall we, I think the members who have come from the nearby Tibetan communities would also like to have a picture with the chairman and the delegates here. Please.